AITA for uninviting my sister for my wedding after she announced her pregnancy at my engagement party. I never thought I'd be the person writing one of these posts, but here I am at 2 a.m., unable to sleep because my entire family is blowing up my phone. My wedding is in 3 weeks, and I just uninvited my sister. Everyone thinks I'm a monster, but I need to know if I'm actually the asshole here.
Background.
For context, I'm 28F, getting married to my fiancé Jake, 30M, in October. My sister Emma is 25F, married to her husband Chris, 27M, for 2 years. We used to be incredibly close growing up. We shared a room until I went to college, told each other everything, and I always imagined she'd be my maid of honor when I got married. The key phrase there, used to be. Things started changing about 3 years ago when Emma got married. I was her maid of honor, and I spent months planning her bachelorette party, helping with dress shopping, organizing her bridal shower, and basically being there for every single step of her wedding journey. I took time off work, spent thousands of dollars, and poured my heart into making her day perfect. And it was perfect. She looked like a princess. Everything went smoothly, and she told me I was the best sister anyone could ask for. But something shifted after her wedding. She became different, more competitive,
More self-centered.
If I shared good news, she had better news. If I bought a new car, she suddenly needed a luxury SUV. If I posted vacation photos, she'd post about an even more exotic trip the next week. My mom said it was just a phase, that Emma was adjusting to married life and trying to establish herself as an adult. I tried to brush it off. Then Jake proposed to me last December. It was beautiful and intimate, exactly what I wanted. He took me to the cabin where we had our first weekend trip together and proposed by the fireplace with our dog wearing a little sign that said, "Mommy, will you marry Daddy?" I was over the moon. I called my family immediately and everyone seemed genuinely happy for me. The engagement party incident. Fast forward to March. Jake and I decided to have an engagement party at my parents' house. Nothing too fancy. Just close friends and family, some catering, a nice backyard setup with string lights, and a photo backdrop I spent weeks putting together. About 60 people total. I wore a white cocktail dress that I'd found specifically for this occasion, and I was so excited to celebrate with everyone we loved. The party was going great. People were mingling, the food was delicious, and Jake and I were making the rounds thanking everyone for coming. Around the time we were about to cut the engagement cake, Emma clinked her glass and asked for everyone's attention. I thought she was going to make a toast as my sister, which was sweet. I was actually touched that she wanted to say something. Instead, she announced, "Chris and I have some exciting news to share with everyone while we're all together. We're pregnant. We're going to have a baby." The entire backyard erupted in cheers and congratulations. Everyone immediately swarmed Emma and Chris, hugging them, asking questions about due dates and gender predictions. My mom started crying happy tears. My dad was shaking Chris's hand enthusiastically. And I just stood there next to my engagement cake, watching my engagement party turn into Emma's pregnancy announcement. Jake squeezed my hand and whispered, "Are you okay?" I nodded, but I wasn't okay. I plastered on a smile, walked over to Emma, hugged her, and said congratulations. What else could I do? If I said anything, I'd look like a jealous, petty sister who couldn't be happy for her. The rest of the party was basically about Emma's pregnancy. People would occasionally remember to congratulate Jake and me, but the main conversation was about baby names, nursery themes, and whether Emma was hoping for a boy or a girl. We didn't even cut our engagement cake because everyone was too busy celebrating Emma's news. My carefully planned photo backdrop got maybe 3 photos before it became a pregnancy announcement photo op. When everyone finally left, I broke down crying. Jake held me while I sobbed in our kitchen. My mom called later that night, still gushing about becoming a grandmother and barely mentioned the engagement party. I told her I was happy for Emma, which was partially true. I was happy she was having a baby. I just wish she'd told me privately first, or waited literally any other day to announce it. The following months, I tried to let it go. I really did. Wedding planning continued, and Emma was involved as my maid of honor because I'd asked her before the engagement party incident. But every single wedding-related event became about her pregnancy. Bridesmaid dress shopping? Emma needed dresses that would accommodate her growing belly and spent an hour talking about maternity fashion. My bridal shower? Half the gifts people brought were baby items for Emma because they were already shopping for a shower. Jake's and my couple shower? Emma complained about her pregnancy symptoms the entire time and left early because she was tired. I suggested color schemes, and Emma said certain colors would wash her out in photos with her pregnancy glow. I planned my bachelorette party in Vegas, and Emma said she couldn't go because she'd be 7 months pregnant and couldn't fly. So could we please change it to something local and pregnancy-friendly? I did change it because I didn't want to be seen as inconsiderate, so we did a spa day locally instead. Every conversation with my mom turned into baby talk. Every family dinner was about Emma's pregnancy journey. My wedding became background noise to the impending arrival of my parents' first grandchild. But I kept quiet. I kept smiling. I kept being the supportive sister and aunt-to-be, because that's what good people do, right? The breaking point. 2 weeks ago, we had our final wedding planning meeting with the family. This was supposed to be where we finalized last-minute details, went over the timeline, and confirmed everyone's roles. Emma showed up an hour late. When she arrived, she immediately announced, "I have something important to discuss." My stomach dropped because I knew that tone. She proceeded to tell everyone that her due date had been adjusted, and she was now due 3 weeks after my wedding instead of 6 weeks after. She was worried about going into labor at the wedding, so she'd talked to her doctor about possibly inducing labor a week before my wedding, just to be safe. I stared at her in disbelief. "You want to have your baby a week before my wedding?" She got defensive immediately. "It's not about your wedding. It's about my health and safety. My doctor said I could go into labor any time in that last month, and I don't want to ruin your day by having a medical emergency." My mom jumped in, saying it actually made sense and was responsible of Emma to think ahead. My dad agreed, saying that Emma's health had to come first. I took a deep breath and said, "Emma, if you're induced a week before the wedding, you'll be in the hospital or recovering at home with a newborn. You won't be able to be my maid of honor. You probably won't even be able to attend the wedding." Emma looked at me like I was being ridiculous. "Of course I'll still come. I'll just bring the baby. Babies are easy. They mostly sleep anyway. And if I can't do all the maid of honor duties, I'm sure the other bridesmaids can cover for me." I felt something inside me snap. "So let me get this straight. You announced your pregnancy at my engagement party, made every wedding event about your pregnancy, and now you want to have your baby a week before my wedding, knowing you won't be able to fulfill your duties as maid of honor, but you'll still show up with a week-old newborn and make my wedding day about your new baby?" The room went silent. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I can't believe you're being so selfish right now. This is about my baby's health." I said, "Then maybe you shouldn't be my maid of honor if you can't commit to it." Emma started crying harder. "Are you seriously uninviting me from your wedding party over this?" And here's where I might be the asshole. I was so angry, so fed up with months of being sidelined, that I said, "Actually, I'm uninviting you from the wedding entirely. You've made every single moment of my engagement about you and your pregnancy. I'm done. You're not coming to my wedding." Emma ran out crying. My mom called me cruel and heartless. My dad said I was being unreasonable and that family is more important than a party. Chris texted me calling me a bridezilla and saying I was jealous of Emma's happiness. Jake supported me completely, saying he understood and would back whatever decision I made. My bridesmaids were split. 2 of them said I had every right to be upset, while one said I was taking it too far. The aftermath. Since that meeting, my phone has been nonstop. Emma's been posting cryptic messages on social media about toxic family members and knowing your worth. My extended family has been messaging me asking what happened and telling me I need to apologize. My mom has called me every single day begging me to reconsider, saying I'll regret this forever and that Emma is hormonal and emotional because of the pregnancy. Emma sent me a long email yesterday. In it, she said she never meant to overshadow me, that she's hurt I would think she'd deliberately try to steal my spotlight, and that she thought I'd be happy to share these important life moments with her. She said the engagement party announcement was because she was so excited and wanted to share it with the whole family at once, not because she was trying to take attention away from me. She said the timing of her induction is genuinely about medical concerns and her anxiety about going into labor at my wedding and causing a scene. The email made me doubt myself. Was I reading malice into actions that were just Emma being excited and anxious? Am I punishing her for something she didn't intentionally do? Is it her fault that people paid more attention to a pregnancy announcement than an engagement party? But then I remember standing next to my untouched engagement cake, watching everyone celebrate her news at my party. I remember every wedding planning session turning into pregnancy talk. I remember her solution to potentially missing my wedding was to just bring a week-old newborn and make it work. My wedding is in 3 weeks. Invitations have gone out. Emma's name is in the program as maid of honor. Family members are asking if they should still come if Emma isn't going to be there. Some of Jake's family thinks I'm being dramatic. My best friend flew in early to try to mediate. Jake says it's completely my call, but he reminds me that I'll have to live with this decision long after the wedding is over. He's right, of course. If I don't invite Emma, there's a real chance our relationship never recovers. My parents might never fully forgive me. Future family gatherings will be awkward and tense. My niece or nephew will grow up with an aunt who uninvited their mom from her wedding. But if I do re-invite her, am I just teaching her that she can walk all over me and face no consequences? That my boundaries don't matter? That she can hijack every important moment in my life and I'll just smile and take it? Update: 3 days later. I didn't expect this to blow up like it did, but thank you for all the responses. I've read every single comment, and I need to share what's happened since I posted. After reading through hundreds of comments, I decided I needed to have one final conversation with Emma face-to-face before making my final decision. I called her and asked if we could meet for coffee, just the two of us. She agreed immediately, which surprised me. We met yesterday afternoon at a neutral coffee shop. Emma looked exhausted, and honestly, so did I. Neither of us had been sleeping well. I started by apologizing for how I delivered the uninvitation. I told her that regardless of how hurt I was, I shouldn't have done it in front of everyone like that. She deserved a private conversation. Emma started crying and said she'd been doing a lot of thinking too. Then she said something that genuinely shocked me. You're right. I didn't know what I was doing. She admitted that when I got engaged, she felt weirdly competitive and jealous. She said she'd always been the baby of the family, the one everyone doted on, and when I got engaged, suddenly I was the center of attention. She said the pregnancy announcement at my engagement party wasn't an accident or poor timing. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she felt horrible about it the moment she saw my face. She said the last few months have been her trying to convince herself she didn't do anything wrong, that she was just sharing her joy, but deep down she knew she was making everything about her. The induction timing was the wake-up call. Her doctor never actually suggested inducing early. Emma had asked about it because part of her liked the idea of having the baby close to my wedding, so she'd still be getting attention. I was honestly speechless. I didn't expect her to admit any of this. Emma said becoming the center of attention with the pregnancy felt addictive, and she didn't realize how much she was hurting me until I finally snapped. She said she'd been in therapy the past few days. Her husband insisted after our blowout, and her therapist helped her see how her actions were rooted in insecurity and sibling rivalry she thought she'd outgrown. She told me she doesn't expect to be reinvited to the wedding, and she understands if our relationship needs space. But she wanted me to know that she's genuinely sorry, and she's going to work on herself because she doesn't want to be this person. We both cried a lot. We talked for almost 3 hours. And at the end of it, I asked her if she would still want to come to the wedding if I reinvited her, just as a guest, not as maid of honor. She said she would be honored to attend and support me, but only if I genuinely wanted her there, not out of family obligation. So here's what we decided. Emma is coming to the wedding as a guest. One of my other bridesmaids has stepped up to be maid of honor. She was my second choice originally anyway, and she's been incredible through all of this. Emma will not be in the wedding party, she will not give a speech, and she will not post about the wedding on social media. She's also promised to keep any pregnancy talk to a minimum and redirect attention back to Jake and me if people start asking her about the baby. Is this the perfect solution? I don't know. Part of me is still hurt and angry. But Emma's honesty meant something to me. She didn't make excuses or blame pregnancy hormones.
She owned what she did.
My mom is relieved Emma is coming and is trying to act like everything is fine now. My dad is still awkward about the whole thing but said he's proud of us for working it out. Some family members think I should have just put her back in the wedding party, but they can think what they want. I don't know if Emma and I will get back to where we were, but I think we needed this to happen. Sometimes relationships need to break a little before they can be rebuilt healthier. The wedding is in 2.5 weeks. I'm choosing to focus on marrying the man I love and celebrating with the people who've genuinely supported us. Everything else is just noise. Thank you all for the tough love and perspective. I needed it. So Reddit, AITA? Story 2. AITA, for refusing to give my inheritance to my brother after he called me selfish for 15 years? I'm sitting in my car outside a lawyer's office right now, shaking because I just had the most intense confrontation of my life with my family. I need unbiased opinions because everyone in my life is either on my side or thinks I'm the worst person alive. There's no middle ground anymore. I'm 32M, and my brother Daniel is 35M. Our grandfather passed away 3 months ago at 89, and his will just went through probate. I inherited his house, which is worth approximately $1.2 million. Daniel got $50,000 cash. And now my entire family is imploding. The backstory you need to understand. This isn't just about a will. This goes back to our childhood, and I need you to understand the full picture of what I've dealt with my entire life. When I was 7 years old, I was diagnosed with leukemia, childhood cancer, the kind that turns your whole family's world upside down. I spent 3 years in and out of hospitals, going through chemotherapy, radiation, losing my hair, being so sick I couldn't go to school. My parents' lives revolved around keeping me alive. Every decision, every dollar, every ounce of energy went into my treatment. Daniel was 10 when I was diagnosed. And from that moment on, he became the forgotten child. I don't remember a lot from those years because I was so sick, but Daniel remembers everything. He remembers his birthday parties being canceled because I was in the hospital. He remembers his parents missing his school plays and baseball games because they were with me during treatment. He remembers wearing hand-me-downs and hearing, "We can't afford that right now," because medical bills were drowning my parents financially. I survived. I've been in remission for 22 years now. But the damage to my relationship with Daniel was permanent. Growing up, Daniel resented me. He never said it directly, but it was in everything he did. He was cold to me, dismissive. When I tried to hang out with him or his friends, he'd tell me to get lost. When I asked for help with homework, he'd say he was busy. When I wanted to play video games with him, he'd say no. My parents noticed but always made excuses for him. He's just being a teenager. Brothers fight, it's normal. Give him space, he's figuring things out. The real breaking point came when I was 16 and Daniel was 19. We had a massive fight about something stupid, I don't even remember what. But in the heat of the argument, he screamed at me, "You've been selfish your entire life. Everything has always been about you. You got cancer, and I stopped existing. Do you know what that's like? To watch your little brother get everything while you get nothing?" I was stunned. I didn't choose to get cancer. I was 7 years old. But to Daniel, I was the reason his childhood was ruined. That word, selfish, became his weapon. Every disagreement, every family conflict, every time I did something he didn't like, I was selfish. I got into a good college with scholarship money I earned through my grades. Selfish because our parents helped me with application fees. I got an apartment after graduation. Selfish because I should have stayed home to help them financially. I got a promotion at work. Selfish because I was bragging about my success. For 15 years, that word has followed me. Our grandfather, my grandfather, my mom's dad, was the one person who saw through all of this. He watched our family dynamics carefully, and he had strong opinions about it. Grandpa Jim was a retired contractor who'd built his own construction business from nothing. He was tough, fair, and didn't tolerate excuses. He loved both Daniel and me, but he had different relationships with each of us. When I was going through cancer treatment, Grandpa Jim was there constantly. He'd sit with me during chemo, read me books, play cards with me when I felt well enough. But more importantly, he was there after I recovered. When I was struggling in high school, feeling behind because I'd missed so much school, he tutored me in math. When I wanted to learn a trade skill, he taught me basic carpentry and home repair in his workshop. We were close. He came to my college graduation. He helped me move into my first apartment. We had dinner together once a month, just the two of us, talking about life, work, relationships, everything. Daniel's relationship with Grandpa was different. Daniel pulled away from the family during his 20s. He'd skip family holidays or show up late and leave early. He rarely called or visited Grandpa Jim. When he did show up, he spent most of the time on his phone or complaining about something. Grandpa Jim tried to connect with Daniel. He invited him to do projects together, offered to help him with his car or his house, asked him to family dinners. Daniel usually said no or made excuses. About 5 years ago, Grandpa Jim said something to me that stuck with me. We were having dinner, and he asked how Daniel was doing. I said we barely talked anymore. Grandpa nodded and said, "Daniel's carrying around anger that's going to poison his whole life if he doesn't let it go. I hope he figures that out before it's too late." The will reading. 3 months ago, Grandpa Jim died peacefully in his sleep. It wasn't unexpected. He'd been declining for about a year. The funeral was hard. I gave a eulogy. Daniel attended, but didn't speak. Last week, we had the official will reading. My parents, Daniel, me, and a few other relatives were there. The lawyer went through everything systematically. Grandpa Jim's estate wasn't huge, but he'd been smart with money. His house, which he'd built himself in 1978, was paid off and had appreciated significantly in value. It's a beautiful 3-bedroom craftsman on 2 acres in a desirable area. Current market value, $1.2 million. The lawyer read, "To my grandson Daniel, I leave $50,000 in cash, with the hope that he finds peace and happiness in his life. Then, to my grandson Marcus, I leave my house and property, along with all furnishings and personal belongings within, with the understanding that he will preserve it and hopefully raise a family there as I did." The room went silent. Daniel's face turned red. My mom gasped. My dad looked shocked. Daniel stood up immediately. "This is a joke, right? There's been a mistake." The lawyer said there was no mistake. Grandpa Jim had updated his will 8 months ago, and he was of sound mind when he did it. Daniel turned to me. "Did you know about this?" I honestly didn't. I shook my head, still processing. "Bullshit. You absolutely knew. You manipulated him. You always manipulated everyone." My mom tried to calm him down. "Daniel, please, let's talk about this at home." But Daniel was on a roll. "No, we're talking about it now. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Marcus gets everything. Again. Just like our entire lives. He got the attention, the money, the time, and now he gets $1 million house while I get pocket change." I found my voice. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know." "You didn't have to ask. You just exist, and everyone gives you everything. Do you know I'm drowning in debt? Do you know my wife and I have been trying to save for a house for 6 years and can't afford anything in this market? But sure, Marcus gets a mansion handed to him because he was Grandpa's favorite." My dad stepped in. "Son, that's enough. Your grandfather made his decision. His decision was wrong. This will should be split evenly. That's fair. That's what family does." I felt defensive anger rising. Maybe if you'd actually spent time with Grandpa instead of avoiding the family for years, things would be different. Wrong thing to say. Daniel exploded. "There it is. Blame me. It's always my fault, isn't it? I'm the bad son, the bad brother, the bad grandson. Never mind that I was neglected my entire childhood. Never mind that I watched my parents go bankrupt keeping you alive while I wore shoes with holes in them. Never mind that I raised myself because they were too busy with you." My mom started crying. "Daniel, that's not fair. We did our best. Your best wasn't good enough. And now Marcus gets rewarded for it again." The lawyer cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion privately."
Daniel pointed at me.
"I want you to give me half. It's the right thing to do."
Split the house value with me.
It's what Grandpa should have done. I was overwhelmed, emotional, and angry.
No.
What?
No.
Grandpa left me the house. It was his choice. I'm not splitting it. Daniel's voice went cold. You're really going to be this selfish? There was that word again. Selfish. I'm not being selfish. This is what Grandpa wanted. Grandpa was a senile old man who played favorites. That crossed a line for me. Don't you dare disrespect him like that. He was sharp until the end, and you know it. He made this choice because you couldn't be bothered to have a relationship with him. We went back and forth until my dad physically stepped between us. The meeting ended with Daniel storming out and my mom following him crying. The aftermath and family pressure. Since then, my phone has been constant warfare. Daniel texts me daily calling me selfish, greedy, and a terrible brother. He's sent me calculations of what half the house value would be. He sent me Zillow listings of houses he could afford if I gave him his fair share. My mom calls me crying, begging me to do the right thing and help my brother. She says Daniel's marriage is suffering because of financial stress, and I could fix everything by just sharing the inheritance. She says family is more important than money, and Grandpa would want us to get along. My dad is more measured but still applies pressure. He says I'm legally entitled to keep everything, but morally, I should consider what this is doing to the family. He reminds me that Daniel had a hard childhood because of my illness, and this could be a way to heal old wounds. Daniel's wife, Ashley, sent me a long email about how they've been struggling, how this inheritance could change their lives, how I already have a good job and a stable life, so I don't need the house as much as they do. My aunt, mom's sister, posted a vague Facebook status about greedy family members who don't understand the meaning of love and generosity. When I called her out on it, she said, if the shoe fits. My cousin told me I should sell the house and split the money because keeping it all is a bad look, and what would Jesus do? Even some of my friends have weighed in. A few support me completely, saying Grandpa's wishes should be respected. But others have said things like, it is a lot of money to keep when your brother is struggling, or maybe you could give him something just to keep the peace. The only person 100% on my side is my girlfriend, Rachel. She's watched me deal with Daniel's resentment for the 4 years we've been together, and she's furious on my behalf. She says I should block everyone and move forward with my life. But she's not family, so her opinion doesn't count according to my mom. Here's what nobody seems to want to acknowledge. I didn't ask to get cancer at 7 years old. I didn't ask for my parents to go into debt, saving my life. I didn't ask for Daniel's childhood to be difficult. None of that was my fault or my choice. I spent 15 years being called selfish for things like going to college, getting jobs, having successes. Normal life things that Daniel turned into crimes because he was angry about our childhood. I built a relationship with my grandfather through effort and time. I showed up. I called. I visited. I cared. Daniel didn't. That's not my fault either. And now I'm supposed to give away hundreds of thousands of dollars because Daniel's feelings are hurt? I'm supposed to override my grandfather's explicit wishes because my family wants peace? Here's what I haven't told them. I was planning to use the house for my future. Rachel and I are talking about getting engaged. We want kids. Grandpa's house is perfect for that. Big yard, good schools, in the town where I grew up. It's not just a financial asset to me. It's my future home, my connection to my grandfather, and the life I want to build. If I sell it and give Daniel half, I'd have $600K, which sounds like a lot, but in this market wouldn't be enough to buy a comparable house. I'd be giving up my grandfather's house, my dream home, and my future to make Daniel feel better about choices he made. But when I say this to my family, they say I'm being selfish. Again. Always. The confrontation today. This morning, my entire family staged an intervention at the lawyer's office. They asked me to come discuss estate details, but when I arrived, it was my parents, Daniel, Ashley, and my aunt all sitting there waiting for me. They had a whole presentation prepared. Ashley had made a PowerPoint on her laptop about their financial situation, complete with charts and their debt breakdown. Daniel had written a speech about our childhood and how this inheritance could be healing for our family. My mom had Bible verses about generosity and forgiveness. They took turns telling me why I should split the inheritance. They promised that if I did this, Daniel would let go of his resentment, our relationship could be repaired, and our family could finally heal from all the old wounds. I listened to all of it, and then I said no. I told them that Grandpa Jim made his choice deliberately and thoughtfully. I told them that I loved the house and planned to live in it. I told them that I was tired of being called selfish for living my life. I told them that Daniel's resentment was his responsibility to deal with, not mine to fix by giving away my inheritance. Daniel called me a heartless asshole. Ashley cried and said I was ruining their lives. My mom said I was breaking her heart. My aunt said I'd regret this decision for the rest of my life. I walked out. And now I'm sitting in my car, second-guessing everything. The doubt. Part of me wonders if they're right. Is it selfish to keep everything when sharing could help my brother? Would Grandpa want me to prioritize family peace over his specific wishes? Am I holding on to resentment about being called selfish, and is that clouding my judgment? $600K is still a lot of money. I could still buy a nice house somewhere, just not Grandpa's house. Daniel could get out of debt and buy a house too. Everyone could move forward. But another part of me is angry that I'm even questioning this. Why is it always on me to sacrifice? Why do I have to be the bigger person, the generous one, the one who gives things up for family harmony? Why does nobody expect Daniel to respect Grandpa's wishes or acknowledge that he's demanding something that isn't his? Rachel says if I give in now, Daniel will expect me to give in forever. She says this isn't really about the money. It's about Daniel's unresolved childhood trauma that he's projecting onto me, and no amount of money will fix that. My best friend says family is complicated, and maybe some compromise exists that I'm not seeing. I don't know anymore. I'm exhausted. I'm hurt. And I'm terrified that no matter what I choose, I'm going to lose either my family or my self-respect. The house is legally mine. The paperwork is done. I could move forward and cut contact with everyone who can accept it. Or I could sell it, split the money, and try to salvage my family relationships. So Reddit, AITA, for refusing to give my inheritance to my brother? Update. 1 week later. I need to update this because the situation has evolved in ways I didn't expect. After I posted, I read every single comment. Thousands of you weighed in, and the overwhelming consensus gave me clarity I desperately needed. Thank you for that. I decided to stand my ground. I called my parents and told them the decision was final. I was keeping the house, and I wouldn't discuss it anymore. I told them I loved them, but I needed them to respect Grandpa's wishes and my boundaries. My mom cried, but eventually said she understood. My dad was quiet, but said he'd support whatever I decided. Then I got a call from Daniel's wife, Ashley. She asked if we could meet for coffee, just the two of us. I almost said no, but something in her voice made me agree. We met yesterday, and Ashley told me something that changed my entire perspective. She said she'd been pushing Daniel to demand the money because they're in serious financial trouble, but not the way they'd presented it. Daniel has a gambling problem. He's been hiding it from the family for 3 years, and they're over $200K in debt because of it. The money from Grandpa's inheritance wouldn't go to buying a house. It would go to paying off casinos and bookies. Ashley was in tears telling me this. She said she's been trying to get Daniel into treatment, but he refuses to admit he has a problem. She thought if he got a large sum of money, it would solve everything, but she's realized it would just enable him further. She apologized for being part of the pressure campaign. She said she was desperate and scared, and she saw me as the solution to their problems. But after our family intervention, she realized they were trying to manipulate me into fixing something that Daniel needs to fix himself. I was stunned. This explained so much. Why Daniel was so desperate, why the amount mattered so much, why $50K wasn't enough. Ashley asked me not to tell the family yet because she's planning to leave Daniel if he doesn't enter treatment. She wanted me to know the truth, so I didn't carry guilt about my decision. I thanked her for telling me and promised to keep it confidential for now. Later that day, I drove to Grandpa's house. I have the keys now, and I walked through it alone for the first time as the owner. I sat in his workshop, surrounded by his tools and his projects, and I felt certain I'd made the right choice. This house represents Grandpa's values, hard work, integrity, and making thoughtful choices about who you invest in. He gave me this house because we had a real relationship built on mutual effort and love. He gave Daniel $50K because he loved him too, but he saw that Daniel needed to figure his life out on his own. Giving Daniel money wouldn't heal our relationship. It wouldn't heal his childhood wounds. And apparently, it wouldn't even solve his actual problems. I'm keeping the house. Rachel and I are moving in next month. We're going to honor Grandpa's memory by building a life there. As for my family, I've set clear boundaries. I'll have a relationship with anyone who can respect my decision, but I won't tolerate being called selfish or greedy anymore. Some relationships might not survive this, and that's painful, but it's not my responsibility to set myself on fire to keep others warm. To everyone who validated my feelings and helped me see clearly, thank you. I needed that. Final answer. NTA, and I'm at peace with it.